One of my favorite things about being a naturalist is coming out into nature, maybe a trail or a place you've been thousands of times before, and taking the time to look for these extra little details, things you might have not seen in the past. Being observant is a big part of being a naturalist and appreciating the outdoors. Taking the time to notice a new smell, hear a new sound, pay attention to how the forest is changing around you as the seasons pass. It takes years and years of practice to be able to really hone in on these details. This is why I commend trackers and hunters for their ability to pay attention and notice all these little changes. It's something you need to be relatively good at to be able to pursue an animal. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about grouse. More specifically, spruce grouse and ruffed grouse located here in northern British Columbia. Grouse are a fantastic introductory species for new hunters, new trackers, and anyone who wants to start paying closer attention to the outdoors. They're relatively abundant, pretty easy to identify, and you know if you hear this sound, then one of them is close by. In today's episode, I sit down with Skye Irwin. She's an undergrad student at the University of Northern British Columbia, a hunter, a conservationist, and a close friend of mine. We sit down to talk about grouse here in northern BC, what they're eating, and how a student might get involved in a research project like hers. So without any further delay, let's get right into that conversation. My name is Mike Bryden, and you're listening to Wilder Insights. Stay tuned.
Sure. So my name is Skye Irwin. I'm an undergrad student here at University of Northern British Columbia in Prince George, and I'll be graduating from the Wildlife and Fisheries degree here this month, which is really exciting.
Right on.
And I'm doing my undergraduate thesis on grouse forage ecology in north central BC with a focus on ruffed grouse and spruce grouse. And it's kind of a long story to how I got started down this path, which we can go into if you want, but I was a vegetarian for a long time, and I'm now a hunter. I've been hunting for about 4 years, and my first animal that I harvested was a grouse, and from that moment it opened my eyes to how amazing those little creatures are. Most people think they're pretty stupid on the sides of roads standing there, but it's not their fault. They didn't evolve with vehicles and highways and stuff. And yeah, so I just wanted to learn more about these birds. I saw a poster in a hallway at UNBC and asking for volunteer students if they wanted to help out with grouse research. And yeah, went to the office and now I'm doing a thesis.
Right on. Well, congratulations on graduating this spring. That's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, before we get too deep into your thesis project, let's just do an overview on grouse here in British Columbia. So we have 2 species, I believe, right?
No, we actually have 5, and that's excluding ptarmigan. There's 3 ptarmigan species, and ptarmigan are actually a type of grouse as well.
Okay, well, let's cover the 5 then, and then let's go into the 2 that you're covering in your thesis.
For sure. So, yeah, the 2 that I'm covering are ruffed grouse and spruce grouse, but we also have sharp-tailed grouse, dusky grouse, and sooty grouse, which used to be the same species before 2006. They changed. They used to be blue grouse.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. Is there a lot of range overlap in the province for those 5 species?
Ruffed grouse and spruce grouse do overlap. Spruce grouse are typically found more in mature coniferous forest and at a little bit higher elevation, whereas ruffed grouse like a bit more diversity in mixed stands, early successional forest. In the higher alpine, like taiga, subalpine, alpine areas where you're going to find the ptarmigan, and the dusky grouse are also more mountainous grouse.
Mm-hmm.
Dusky are along the like anywhere in the Rocky Mountain range. There are some areas of hybridization still between dusky and sooty grouse, but sooty grouse is more of a coastal species, and they're pretty much just on the little section of BC coast that we have here and on the island.
So your thesis project is specifically looking at the grouse in the Prince George area?
Yes.
So the 2 we have here, the spruce and the ruffed, can you give me a description of each of them and what makes them different?
Yeah, so ruffed grouse are also known as drummers. So around this time, you'll start to hear them start to beat their wings and practice for courtship displays.
Yeah, that's scared the crap out of me a few times in the bush.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like an engine trying to start.
Yeah.
So it's them beating their wings, usually raised up on a log or a rock or something. And they're actually beating their wings not against the log or themselves. It's just like they're whipping their wings fast enough to create a bit of a vacuum.
Oh,
and that's
really?
what makes that sound.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's got to be insanely fast. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also have, so for visual ID, they have longer feathers on their head that they can raise up. And they have a black band at the end of their tail. And usually around here, they're going to be mostly gray. Like their tail will be gray with with a black band. And in more southern regions, they tend to have a more reddish, brownish coloration, but still with a really defined black band on the tail.
Is there anything about their appearance like that gives them the name ruffed grouse?
Yeah, so they have black or brown neck feathers that they can raise up and out like a Shakespearean neck ruff.
Oh, yeah.
It was big fashion in the 1500s. So
Why aren't people wearing that anymore?
Yeah, I know. That's why they got that name. Yeah.
That's cool. And then the spruce grouse.
Spruce grouse are a little bit smaller in size than ruffed grouse. They're both smaller than a chicken,
Okay.
but they're nice medium-sized birds. But yeah, a bit smaller than a chicken. So spruce grouse are mostly darker in coloration. The males are pretty much all black, and they have these really beautiful red eye combs or superciliaries above. It looks like an eyebrow above their eyes, and they can puff that up. It's part of their mating displays. Ruffed grouse also have that, but it's kind of a yellowy orange and usually a bit harder to see. But with the black coloration of the spruce grouse, the red eye comb it stands out really nice.
Right. And there's sexual dimorphism in these species, right? So like, is it the males that just have the red eyebrow on the spruce grouse, or?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. I think the females might have a little bit of it, but it's super defined in the males.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not as flashy in the females. Okay.
And ruffed grouse, some people can tell the difference between males and females based on coloration, but they look pretty much the same. It's something to do with like where the spots or how many spots are in their feathers, whereas the spruce grouse and most of the other grouse species, the females are all like a mottly brown color. All these birds are ground nesters. So the females that sit on the eggs to incubate and stay with their broods, they need to camouflage.
Okay,
so
yeah.
they're all typically a drab brown, whereas the males are a little bit more flashy.
Right. And that's just for breeding, I would
Yeah.
assume, right? So let's get into your thesis project. What is the thesis of what you're working on?
Yeah, so my thesis is focused on the forage ecology of ruffed and spruce grouse in north central BC. So I was looking at the difference in diet composition between the two species, and then within the species, I was seeing if there was a difference in diet composition between ages, sexes, and then going into if there's regional differences. So I made polygons of where the birds were collected from in relation to Prince George. So seeing if there was a regional difference as well as temporal difference. So time of year that they were collected, time of day, and the month.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So what did you have to do to get those results? Like, how are you checking what they were consuming?
Yeah, so I'll start with where we got the birds
Yeah,
from.
sure.
So all of our birds were from legally hunter-harvest donations. So they're harvested in the legal hunting season in the fall, which is September to November. And the hunters involved were asked to collect field data as well. So they would record the location they harvested the bird, time of day, date, and some other details for us, as well as they weighed the bird in full weight. And then they would take the edible portions, so the breast meat, and then freeze the bird and give that to us. And then from there, I would do a full lab dissection on each grouse, and I would take as much information from them as we possibly could to create a big data set so that other students could hopefully do different projects and learn more about these birds while we have them in the freezers. And for my project specifically, I was identifying their age and sex, and then I was doing a crop analysis. And a crop is an extension of the bird's esophagus, and they swallow their food whole. Birds don't have teeth.
Right.
So they swallow it whole, and then it goes into this crop that's just kind of a storage place. So on a dead bird, you can open up that crop and find food completely intact. You can say, oh, that's a rose hip, that's a piece of clover, that's a pine needle.
Oh, so digestion hasn't started at all in the crop. Okay,
not
that's
at all.
Interesting. That's just a bag
Yeah.
holding their food. Oh, that's so cool. I wanted to ask, how do you age the birds?
So it's called a bursa of Fabricius, and it's a little sac. You have to fully dissect and open up the bird. There are ways to do it with feathers, but I don't know how to do that. But with a full dissection, you follow the digestive tract down to the cloaca. And on the inside of the cloaca, if there's this little extra bulge or piece of flesh, that's the bursa of Fabricius. If they have that, they are under a year of age or considered juvenile or subadult. And if that is absent, then they're an adult.
Oh, that's so interesting.
That's about all I can
do. No, that's
yeah.
more than I would have expected. That's so cool. Okay, so what did you find? What were the results of what you've been looking at so far?
Yeah, so I found that there was a significant difference between ruffed grouse and spruce grouse in diet composition. The ruffed grouse had a lot more variety in their diet. So they identified 36 different plant taxa in the ruffed grouse crops.
Wow.
Compared to 20 in the spruce grouse. And most of those in the spruce grouse were trace amounts. Like spruce grouse, in my study, ate 70% lodgepole pine needles.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and then a little bit of spruce. And ruffed grouse primarily ate clover. Clover was a big one, but not in weight, but in frequency. I think clover and vaccinium was the other one. So blueberry family things. So it could be blueberry, it could be huckleberry. I just call it vaccinium because I couldn't quite get down to species on those. Vaccinium occurred in over 50% of ruffed grouse crops, but what made up most of the weight was kinnikinick berries and rose hips.
That's so interesting.
Jam-packed with those.
Yeah, so there was a greater diversity of plants consumed by the spruce grouse, but was there...
Ruffed grouse.
Ruffed grouse.
Yeah.
Oh, my mistake, sorry. But was there a lot of overlap between the two species? Were they eating a lot of the same thing?
There were,
Yeah.
I think there were 3 plant taxa in ruffed grouse that were not found in spruce grouse, and same in spruce. There were a couple found there that ruffed grouse didn't want to touch, but it was mostly those were just like trace amount fragment pieces.
Right. So what do you think we can learn from this? Like, what do you think this tells us?
Ooh, it really depends what you could take it anywhere.
Yeah, I guess so. This is the first step, right? And then
for sure. Yeah. What I'm relating it to is their habitat requirements. So what types of forest structures give them the plants they need to sustain themselves with their diets.
Okay.
So for ruffed grouse, like berries, shrubs, clover and stuff like that occurs in more open areas and more early successional forest. Whereas obviously lodgepole pine comes from lodgepole pine for spruce grouse, so they like the mature timber up until a certain point.
Interesting. That's so cool. So if we're looking at what types of habitats are required for each of these species, that can be applied to like management practices, right?
Totally. Yeah. Forestry, different land management practices, how we like fire suppression is a big one and a big reason for loss of habitat for ruffed grouse in the States. They need disturbance and they need those natural disturbance regimes to work in order for them to have the diversity of habitat that they need in the early successional forests.
Right on. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Because I looked at so many different variables, the other thing that I found that was statistically significant was that in ruffed grouse, there was an obvious diet composition shift between 2023 and 2025. And I don't know if you remember, but 2023 was a really bad drought year here.
Right.
So ruffed grouse went from their compositions were like 3% fruit in 2023 to 60% fruit in 2025 when the berry crops returned.
Oh, that's
and
so interesting.
It was reversed in leaves. So they ate like 55% leaves in their diet in 2023, and that went down to 15% in 2025.
Right. Yeah. For anyone in Prince George that might be listening right now, I'm sure people remember in 2023 that was like a big year for bears coming into town.
Exactly.
For the same reason. But yeah, no one's ever talking about what's going on with the grouse, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating because you can see it there too. I was looking at the grizzly bear and black bear, northern bear aware stuff as well. And yeah, when berry crops are low, bears change their behaviors and ranges, and the instances of bear and human conflict is higher. And so it was really interesting to see that obviously the grouse had to supplement their diet with more leaves in 2023. But then by 2025, they could reestablish eating as many berries as they hopefully would like to.
Right. I would love to see like long-term results from years like that specifically. Like I'm sure that diet composition change would have an effect on body condition, and perhaps even the offspring laid that year, right?
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of effect that has long term.
Totally. I mean, with the diet studies, it would be really interesting to compare it over more seasons, not just the hunting season. If you could look at how does this change in the spring and the summer and the dead of winter, and how does it reflect the population trends over years and decades. And yeah, how a really interesting one would be what their preference is. So what are they eating based on what's available?
Oh, totally.
I think that would be.
Do they have a favorite berry or something like that?
Somebody do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. So the hunting season for grouse here is in the fall, correct?
Yes.
So that time of year, is it like bears? Are they bulking up for the winter in the fall, or? Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I would think so. Berries have super high energy content to them, and they're more easily digestible. Whereas the studies I've read say that in winter it's a lot of buds and twigs, so they're scrounging.
Yeah, not a whole lot
to
of
digest.
Yeah, That's awesome. Okay, now so backing away from your project specifically, you're an undergrad student here at UMBC. This is a pretty incredible project for an undergrad student to be working on, and I bet a lot of students would be interested in knowing how they can get involved with something like this. So I was just wondering, you mentioned at the beginning how you took volunteer opportunities to start getting involved. But I was wondering if you could kind of play me through the timeline and how you went from just an interest in grouse hunting and grouse in general to where you're at right now.
Yeah, well, definitely if there is anybody interested in pursuing research, like look on the walls for posters because profs will put that in, and graduate students will advertise that. You just have to open your eyes and then actually reach out and follow up with it. And if there's not a specific species in mind, just take whatever volunteer work you can get. Like, it's all going to lead somewhere. And by meeting, you're only going to benefit by expanding your network and meeting people. Totally. And especially professors at the school, because if you're doing some work for them and you're not really loving it, but you really like fish, they're going to be able to transition you hopefully to meet profs that work with fish, or vice versa. So was grouse something you saw yourself working with before you started this project, or? No, I just went because, like, before pursuing grouse as game, so before hunting them, I hadn't really given them a second thought. And I was vegetarian because I loved animals, but I never had an experience as powerful as that with wildlife before. And it sounds weird because, like, yes, I killed a grouse, but it made me want to protect them even more and protect their habitat, and for hopefully other people to have experiences like that, because it's so impactful. At least it was for me. So yeah, that's a huge reason why that poster caught my eye. I was like, oh, I know grouse. Like, I have pursued them and I've tried to understand them, and like I've looked them all over, and like they're amazing and challenging little creatures. So it drew me in for sure. And so how that process started was I sat down, I had a conversation with Dr. Roy Ray, who's a professor here at UNBC, and he kind of laid out what he was looking for, and that he just wanted to get more people studying grouse. He had a whole bunch in the freezer, and thought it was important to kind of honor their lives by getting as much information off of them as we could, and and put that into people's hands who can make management decisions about their habitat. And
Yeah. No, that really is amazing, and it's kind of moving. Like, hunting gets a bad rep from animal lovers, I would say.
It's controversial.
Yeah, because you're directly killing an animal. But even just your project, look at how much impact hunters have had in learning this new information that we have now. It's like all your specimens were donated by hunters. They took the time to collect that data and send in the corpses once they were finished. And even yourself, like, over time, you've developed this love for wildlife because of how close you've gotten with it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
No, I think it's something that needs to be talked about more, but
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, and all the hunters that donated grouse to the project, like they're doing it out of love and out of wanting to keep hunting and wanting those populations to be healthy, and they're observant. They'll pick up on stuff, and you have to, as a hunter, you have to notice things, pick up on the habitat and the sign and so many things that will help you hopefully be successful, but also just help you understand another species.
Yeah. I understand through your thesis project you have a connection with the Ruffed Grouse Society of Canada, and I know they're pretty big into hunting as well. That's like a huge aspect of their foundation. I was wondering if you could talk about your connection with them.
Yes, definitely. I'll make a slight correction. It's the Ruffed Grouse Society.
Oh, sorry.
There is a Canadian chapter, and the membership there is trying to grow. But I am a huge thank you to those guys, to Ben Jones and Carl Malcolm especially, who expressed interest in my project. And yeah, the Ruffed Grouse Society provided me with some funding to be able to do my thesis, which was super, super appreciated and gave so much more purpose to what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so the Ruffed Grouse Society, they're also the Ruffed Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society. They started with just ruffed grouse as their main flagship species, but they also took on American woodcock to represent a migratory species to be able to cover a little bit more ground with their conservation work.
Right, and the woodcock is also a game bird.
It is,
right?
Yeah, we don't have them here in BC. They're more of an East Coast central and east coast of Canada, and then down in the States. But yeah, they're a little shorebird, but they're forest dwelling shorebirds. They're really cute.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the videos of them dancing across the street.
Yeah, they do a little rock back and forth as they go. It's hilarious.
That's awesome. So your results from your thesis, are they gonna hear about this and talk about it at the Ruffed Grouse Society?
Yeah, I've been sending them photos and videos about my data collection process, and some reports on how I'm doing, and then I'll be, of course, sharing my thesis with them, as well as writing more of a public-friendly, popular article about my findings as well.
That's amazing, and hopefully that opens some doors for other people picking up the results after you finish your project, right?
Yes, definitely. So as you said, a lot of they are a membership-based conservation organization, and most of their members are hunters. And the organization was founded and started up by hunters wanting to restore and help protect habitat for ruffed grouse, but also for all wildlife species that benefit from their habitat. And yeah, they do a bunch of boots on the ground work to restore that habitat, and as well as educational and lots of fun looking events to try to raise money in order to do this. And they work closely with other conservation organizations and the U.S. Forest Service to do different contracts. So they're super involved with habitat, which is awesome. And this year they actually have a kind of a special membership deal. It's $60 US. You get a really cool hat with an embroidered ruffed grouse and American woodcock, as well as a copy of Aldo Leopold's Sand County Almanac book, which if anyone listening is a meat eater fan, Steve Ranella has called that book the best piece of conservation literature ever written.
Oh, wow.
So it's a good one. And then all that money goes into conservation. So yeah, if you're a poor student, ask that to be your Christmas present or something like that. But also if you're a broke student, there are free ways to support, and that would be supporting the Canadian chapter. They're doing a friendship membership, which is $0. They just want your name and email, and that still does a lot to show that you support and care about habitat for grouse and other wildlife species.
Oh, that's amazing. So both of these societies, the one based in the States and the Canadian chapter, they're nationwide, correct?
Yes.
So when they hold their events, do they hold a bunch throughout the country, or are they more
Yeah.
isolated?
Yeah. So there's like, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's over 120 chapters total throughout the States and Canada. So not every state has a chapter. Every state should have a chapter. And we're trying to get more chapters coming west because grouse hunting is much more of a popular thing to do in like Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick here in Canada. But there is a Grouse Hunters BC Facebook page and Instagram page now that myself and a guy named Gregor in Kelowna started up, just trying to connect more grouse hunters. And you don't have to be a hunter, just people that care about grouse in BC. But there's not yet a chapter here. But yeah, there's banquets that I see happening in Ontario and different events happening throughout other states and provinces that have chapters established.
For those interested in wanting to get into hunting, at least from a personal experience, I feel like grouse is a very good introductory species, right?
It is. It is like the gateway species to hunt. They're, for a lot of different reasons, like it was for me, that's what opened my eyes to hunting, really, having that opportunity. They're pretty easy to get. They're accessible driving around on Forest Service roads. It's a bit different out east or in the States, how you hunt. But yeah, out here, you just drive around and you can pretty much find one. And it's also a little bit less of a risky animal to go for your first few times hunting, because if you hit the bird, it's dead pretty much. Whereas if you're going after like a deer, you have a lot more room for error, and you want it to be a positive experience, and you want to do the right steps in preparation for a hunt anyway. But yeah, grouse is a really good place to start. I was talking with my boyfriend this morning, and he started hunting grouse when he was 6.
Oh, wow.
And he's used the knowledge that he's gained from them across his hunting lifestyle. Like he learned how to look for sign for grouse, what habitats they're in, all this information you need to pick up on a game on a animal you're pursuing, and he's been able to transfer that to deer and bear and all these other things. So
that's amazing. Yeah, it is the perfect gateway animal, right? So for those who would be interested in learning more and maybe getting into grouse hunting or grouse conservation, do you have somewhere with the society you would like to send them, like maybe a website or? Yeah,
so rgs.ca is the Canadian chapter, and from there, I think if there's like a shop icon, if you click on that, sign up to be a friend membership, which is the free one. And yeah, if you're in BC and you want to reach out and meet more people that also care about grouse, or if you'd like to ask someone to take you out hunting in your area, join some of the social media pages. So that's Grouse Hunters BC on Facebook and Instagram. And you can send us a message on there, and we can also put you on an email list. We're doing up an email right now for information on doing drummer counts and population counts in your area.
Oh, cool.
So just to kind of get an idea of how many grouse are in your backyard or in your area.
So what does that consist of? People sign up to volunteer, and then do they stay in a location, or do they go for a hike and they listen for the drumming noises? Or?
Yeah, definitely take note of your location. But then, for ruffed grouse, you're listening for that drumming in the woods. For spruce grouse are really tricky. I don't actually know how to do a proper population count for them because they're one of the more cryptic birds, which is also one of the reasons why they are one of the least studied birds. They do not have a lot of scientific literature on spruce grouse.
Oh, interesting.
For dusky and sooty grouse, they're also known as hooters. They have these cool air sacs in their neck that amplifies their sound, and it's a really low hooting sound, and it's more of a sound that you can kind of feel. It's really deep, so it's more of a thing you can feel than actually hear. But listening for that is another good way to do kind of a citizen science population estimate.
Yeah, that's such an interesting description of their call. I kind of feel that way about ruffed grouse as well. Like, I feel like I can never pinpoint the direction the sound is coming from because it's such like a deep, bassy thump.
Yeah.
It's like not looking around and trying to find it.
Yeah, that's true. You can also kind of feel that the drumming more than you can hear it too sometimes.
I've got one final question for you. It could be personal or it could be a scientific response, whatever you think. But I was wondering why you think grouse conservation is important.
Yeah, so a few reasons. Well, there's so many. So the ecological role of grouse they're a food source. Everything wants to eat a grouse. There's a lot of species that rely on them as a food source, and like the adults as well as the chicks and the nests. And that can be from like your more apex predators like coyote, lynx, bobcat, all the way down to like the little ermine and like little guys in the weasel family, as well as threatened species like the fisher and the northern goshawk. They all want to eat a grouse. So that's a big one. Also, all of these grouse species need a diversity of habitat. So by protecting diverse and complex forest habitats, you're also just allowing there to be so much more habitat for other species that benefit from that, and not just benefit from eating grouse, but benefit from the habitat itself. And that can be species like whitetail mule deer, bear, anything else, songbirds that need different like forest structure and age stands and mixed forest types. So yeah, there's a lot there. And then of course we've already talked about that they are such a good animal to get people into outdoor recreation and into hunting, and to care more about wildlife and understand how hunting regulations work, and just how natural processes work. I feel like we're really removed from death, but that's a rabbit hole, but also just natural processes, like things die and how things get on your plate, and going through that whole process is super important.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how being a hunter requires such like keen observation skills. And I feel like that's something we've lost as a whole when it comes to nature. Like the everyday person's not like paying super close attention to how like this small change has happened or anything like that.
Which way is the wind blowing?
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't seem important to our day to day, but like when you're trying to feed yourself and when you're spending all that time outdoors, like that's something you pick up on.
Yeah. And the luck too. Like it is important to be observational and aware of your surroundings, but you just feel so lucky when you have an interaction. Even if you're not trying to get anything, you're just out there and you're out in that's their turf and their environment, and you know, they know you're there usually. So yeah, to have that interaction is also just, I think, an aspect of luck and should be appreciated as such.
Well, Skye, if you have any final comments you'd like to say, or anywhere you'd like to send anybody, now would be the time.
Yeah, well, go to the Ruffed Grouse Society websites. I think it's ruffedgrousesociety.org for the major U.S. organization, and then rgs.ca for the Canadian one. Those social media pages for for Grouse Hunters BC. And yeah, if there's any students at BC or current students at UNBC or future students that are planning on coming to UNBC, keep your eye out for posters and talk to your profs about research and volunteering.
Right on. And ask about Skye Irwin's previous project and get connected. I'm
more than happy to. I'm on Instagram and people can send me messages or whatever. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about this stuff.
Perfect. That'd be lovely. I'll put links to everything you just mentioned in the show notes for this episode so people can go find that.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike.
Of course. Skye, thanks for coming to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Skye Irwin is an undergraduate student at the University of Northern British Columbia. So I want to thank you, Skye, for coming in during your busy schedule to come talk to me today. If you want to learn more about the Ruffed Grouse Society, I've left links down in the show notes below to rgs.ca, the ruffedgrousesociety.org, as well as the Instagram and Facebook pages for Grouse Hunters of BC. I encourage you to reach out to your local chapter and try to get involved, but if you don't have a chapter around you, I suggest you try to reach out online and social media to try to find some local hunters and conservationists who share this interest with you. Wilder Insights is partially produced at the CFIR radio station, located in Prince George, BC. If you're in this neck of the woods, you can check out the show every Thursday at 10 a.m. on CFIR Radio 88.7 FM. Our theme music is the song Sea by the band Funeral Culture. I suggest checking those guys out. If you like this episode, consider giving the show a follow on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, or wherever you're listening to it. Wilder Insights is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Mike Bride. You can find our email and social medias down in the show notes below. And if you have any questions or just want to reach out, you can reach me by emailing wilderinsightspodcast@gmail.com or just shooting me a DM on Instagram. That's the best way to get a hold of me. That's it for this episode, but I really appreciate you stopping by and giving it a listen. Until next time, remember to get outside, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.